Hello everyone, today we are going to learn what a Docker is, what is an image, what is a container, and how do we build it, right? In order to get started, we'll first try to understand what a Docker is. Docker is simply a software that packages an app with everything it needs to run, that is code, dependencies, and settings, into a container. Now, why there is a need for a Docker, what problems it try to solve. So there's it's an issue in software engineering which is called it works on the machine issue, which means that it is quite possible that an app might work on your system but might not work on someone else's system because you might have installed extra dependencies, you might have a different system and environment, and the config might be different. So all of these issues are resolved using the Docker. Given that the other party, the only thing the other person need to have is Docker. Once they have the Docker, and you just create it once, and then you run it for always, right? So this is the problem that Docker try to solve. Now, in order to how Docker fix these issues is there are three concepts. First is image, right? Image. And what is an image? Image is simply a blueprint of the app plus everything needed to run the app, right? And then there is another thing called container. This is a running instance of that image. And then at the end there is Docker. And Docker is simply a tool or platform that allows developers to create, deploy, and run applications in containers. So let's start right away by creating a first Docker image. So in order to create a Docker and run the container, what you need to do is you need to download Docker. I'll give the link in the description. Once you have downloaded and installed it, make sure it's running. And I'm using the terminal PowerShell within the VS Code. You can use from directly from the PowerShell. If you're a Mac user, you can use the terminal over there. So let's start and create our first image. So first we'll So what is this Ubuntu latest? Ubuntu is simply a latest version of Ubuntu operating system, right? It provides a base image for building and running application in a container, right? And then what we can do is copy entry points. So what we're doing over here is we are installing any necessary dependencies if required, and then we can do is exactly like this. So what this command means is this makes a command executable, because by default the files copied into Docker image may not have the permission to execute. So by running this command, we are giving them the permission to execute as well. And then at the end, we can see is entry point dot bash, right? So I'll explain the entry. So this is all you need to have in the Dockerfile. Now, also, what is a Dockerfile? So Dockerfile is simply a text file with instruction. It tells Docker like which base image to use, which files to copy, which commands to run, and what should happen when the container starts, right? So this is very simple, very basic script. And then we need to make sure the file that you have created is the same, because it's case sensitive. And then you need to create another entry points, because this bash that we have written, the bash that we're referring to is this specific file. So make sure that spellings on both the naming and over here are same. Once we are over here, we create a very simple app in which we'll try to print hello from Docker, and then the second line says that it should print a date as well, right? So after everything is set up, you have downloaded, installed Docker, you have created both of these files, you're within the right directory, right? What we'll do is we'll try to first build our Docker image. In order to build a Docker image, it is docker build t, and after t you need to give the name of the image. So let's call it first image, and this dot means that it needs to be within the same directory. So it's building, it's exporting, and right, so far so good. So now we have created our first image, and now we need to see the output as well. So for that, we will run docker run first image. Here you go. So it prints hello from Docker, and it then also prints the date. So that is all you need to do in order to create your first image and see its output, right? One more important thing is this starts. So when you created when you create a build run this app, run this code, so it starts a container, right? I'll show you in a while. And the overall work, so this is the overall workflow of a Docker. So you write a Docker file, you build an image, and then you run the container. So after you have installed your Docker desktop is running, you will see this is the name of our first image that we just created, and by default it gives a random name, and this is our container ID, and you can see over here it started 2 seconds ago, right? So see you in the next session.